Today we're creating the first video out of a video series. We're going to have some topics to help people get better at poker. We're going to discuss bankroll management, setting a schedule, what games to play, how to improve at poker, different topics that will benefit a lot of people. Today's video is going to be the first one. It's going to be the top 3 things that improved my poker game. First one is going to be investing in education. For me, this is a no-brainer. If you want to keep poker interesting, you want to keep it a viable option to make money. I think improving your game and having like a study schedule makes a lot of sense. How I study has gone through some evolutions over the years as well. I started out reading books back in 2004, 2005, 2006. Books are mostly outdated these days, I would say. There are still a few good ones, but in general, I think you're going to get more bang for your buck by signing up to a training site or using a solver or any of the other tools we're going to discuss. Next level from books, I would say, is studying charts. Like pre-flop charts are easily accessible. You can get them pretty cheap. They're going to help your game a lot. I think having like a solid pre-flop game is going to be super important to help you improve. If you have a solid pre-flop game, post-flop is going to be a lot easier as well because you know how your range looks, which is quite essential. Especially for MTTs, I think this is super important. I remember when I switched from cash games to MTTs a few years back, having those pre-flop charts and knowing how to play 10 big blinds, 15 big blinds, 20 big blinds, super important. So get those. Very cheap, very easy. The next one is training sites. I think that's like a pretty cheap option to get a lot of high-level content from skilled players. You can sign up to any of the options out there. There are a bunch of them. Some of them have bundles, some of them have like individual videos. No matter which one you choose, I think it's a good idea to ask your network which one is actually worth following, like what coaches should you be watching videos from. Time is limited and you don't have time to watch it all. So make sure the coaches you're watching actually know what you're talking about. The next step up from watching training videos, I would say, is probably moving on to solvers. Solvers can be very expensive, very hard to use, time consuming. It's a bit of a big step up from training videos, but in the end it is going to be worth your time if you master it. These days you can buy pre-solved sims as well, which I think makes a lot of sense, especially for Monker Solver, which is quite an advanced software to use. Setting up sims in Monker takes a hell of a lot of time and it's easy to fuck up. So, should I be swearing?
Yeah.
Not good for algorithm, is it?
Yeah, whatever.
Very easy to fuck up. So, probably a good idea to buy some pre-solved sims and use those instead. These pre-solved sims can be pretty expensive, but given the time it takes to set it up yourself, you need to rent a server or have like a NASA computer, like a powerful supercomputer to run these sims. I think it makes sense to just pay the cost that it costs and yeah, not worry too much about it. Today there are also pre-solved libraries that you can subscribe to. There's a bunch of services like this where you don't even need to run the sims yourself. You don't need to buy the sims even, you just subscribe to a site that has already run all the sims. And you can use a solver in a browser basically where you just click through, get the options, and it's very easy. That's probably what I would recommend today because these solutions are pretty good. They're just getting better and better, saving you all that time that you can use for anything else, playing, studying these sims, whatever. I think it's easily worth the cost. So to summarize, the first point, like the education that you should be investing in is books, although they can be outdated. Training sites is the next one, charts, solvers or pre-solved solver libraries, I would say. Depends what level you're playing, how much you want to invest, what your goals in poker are, everything like this, of course, but if you're trying to make it, I think getting one of those pre-solved libraries and going through a lot of sims is going to be your best option. Second biggest point that has improved my poker game is networking. I don't want to say networking is underrated because I think by this time everyone has gotten the memo that networking is actually super powerful and you should be doing it, not just in poker but in any area of life. I think networking is just alpha omega if you want to get places. For me personally, this has been moving from grindhouse to grindhouse basically. I was first living in a grindhouse in Malta with some guys, then I moved to Tallinn to another grindhouse with some other people, and for the last 2 years I've been living in London in a grindhouse there with some other poker players. So I think that's like, if you live in a grindhouse where you have people surrounding you that always talk poker, you can bounce ideas of each other at the breakfast table or after your session is finished or whenever it is. I think that's just like the best way to improve fast, I would say. I understand that this is not the solution for everyone. Some people actually have commitments and responsibilities in life. Imagine. People have 9-to-5 jobs, families, girlfriends, pets, whatever it is. People have things going on in their life, so maybe they just can't move to Malta to move in a big poker house with a bunch of other like-minded people. I know this is not the solution for everyone. And there are other good options that you can do instead of this. I know there are groups that are renting office spaces where they treat poker as a 9-to-5 job basically. Everyone shows up in the office at 9 or whatever the time, whatever schedule you're playing. People show up, you're surrounded by other grinders, you can discuss hands in the breaks or whatever. I think this is probably the next best option. I think it beats just sitting alone at home by quite a bit, but probably not going to be as good as living in a grind house, I would say. But if you have a family and everything, then of course I think this makes a lot of sense as an option. If you don't like either of these options, or if you just don't like people, I think the next best step is to be part of a study group on Skype or Discord or whatever it is. You need someone to bounce ideas off, I think, and discuss poker hands with. If you're only going to do it by yourself, you can do it for sure, but it takes a lot longer time. Because it might be some aspect of the game that you think you have figured out, and then you discuss it with a friend and he has actually figured it out in a different way, and then you bounce ideas of each other and you can reach a conclusion much faster. If you're part of a team or a group or whatever, you're just going to get there so much faster. So being part of some form of community is going to be super essential. Like, this has also evolved a lot over the years, just like poker education has. It went from books to training sites to solvers to solved libraries or whatever we have now, right? And it's the same with networking, I think. It used to be people used to discuss hands in poker forums like 2+2, or we had a Norwegian poker forum as well where Norwegian poker players were discussing hands, and people would be very open to share ideas and to discuss. This was before solvers. People didn't feel as secretive. It was much more of an open community and people were discussing a lot. Now that doesn't really happen anymore. 2+2 is still a thing and people are discussing hand history sometimes, but it's not really a thing. Now it's gotten much more, people have their tribes and they have their study groups and they have the people that they share ideas with. That's how it is today. People are much more secretive because it's much more competitive today, right? People don't want to give things up for free anymore like they used to back in the days. A good example of this is just for me. For the last 2 years, I was living in a grindhouse with 2 players called Prebz and Ben Apart. Prebz is a high-stakes no limit hold'em MTT crusher, and Ben Apart is a high-stakes PLO, has a very deep understanding of PLO. And when we were discussing hands between us, I would notice pretty often that Ben would have a different way of looking at no limit hold'em hands than me and Prebz would, for example. He would look at it more from a equity-driven angle, which is a concept that's much more prevalent in PLO. And it was very interesting because he would oftentimes see a no limit hold'em poker hand from a completely different perspective than me and Prebz. And sometimes he was wrong, sometimes we were wrong. It was a bit like this, of course, but just having people with different backgrounds in your network that you can bounce ideas off is going to be super valuable, I think, because for me, discussing no limit hold'em hands with a PLO player has made me understand a lot of concepts that I maybe wouldn't have understood just by myself, just from thinking from my perspective, from my no limit hold'em perspective. So I think that's a pretty important point, to have people in your network with different skill sets and different backgrounds. And yeah. The third thing I would say improved my poker game the most was having solid habits in place. Learning poker is a gradual process, right? It's getting the reps in, getting a lot of repetitions and figuring out concepts as you go. It's not done overnight, and if you have these habits in place of when you're going to study, how much you're going to study, whatever it is, I think you're going to reach it way faster. Whatever, if you learn small things every day, that's going to compound. By the end of the year, you learn a lot, right? It might seem like a little thing to run just 10 sims every day or whatever it is, but in the end, if you do this and have it as a strong habit, it's going to compound, and by the end of the year, you've improved a lot. If you look back half a year or whatever, and you think of yourself as the same poker player as you were half a year ago, you're probably not doing it right. For me, I enjoy it a lot when I look at a hand that I played half a year ago, and I'm thinking to myself, Jesus, I was dog shit at poker back then. It's only 6 months ago, but that's how you should feel about your game. I feel like if you're doing a lot of studying, you should be. And I've been studying for a long time. I've been playing poker since 2004, right? Not studying for all of those years, it's been on and off or whatever, but still, I've been playing for a long time, and I've been playing professionally for some years now, and still I'm improving quite a lot, I would say, just month to month, just learning new things. So having those habits in place, super essential. When it comes to running simulations in PioSolver or MonkerSolver or whatever it is, or if you're using one of the pre-solved libraries, there is this thing where sometimes if you run similar spots over and over again, you're going to see patterns, right? And if you run enough of these, sometimes there will be a light switch that turns on basically. Something clicks in your head and you're going to be like, ah, now I get it. That's how the spot works. And getting enough reps in to actually have these light switch moments is super important. And that's why you need to have it in place, so you can actually get enough reps in, so you can get to these light switch moments. Okay, so that was my top 3 list of things that improved my poker game the most. Curious to hear what you guys think, if you agree with my takes or if you disagree with anything. Was there anything I missed or anything you disagree with? Leave a comment below. And curious to hear what you guys think. If you enjoyed this type of content, we're going to be making a bunch of these going forward. We have like 10-15 topics in mind that we're going to discuss. So if you don't want to miss any of those, click the subscribe button. If you have any friends that you think would benefit from this type of content, then please share it. Appreciate that a lot. Yeah, what else?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah?
Cool.
Cool. See you for the next one.